Compassion is a necessity and not a luxury. As we mark the Year of Compassion, celebrating 90 years of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's magnificent contribution and profound impact on the lives of countless beings, we cannot miss quoting His Holiness the Dalai Lama and talking about his initiatives in promoting the practice of compassion. Inspired by the works of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, Emory University programs focus on the interdisciplinary investigation and application of compassion. The cognitively based compassion training program at Emory is a secular meditation program that draws from the writings of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the millennia-old Indo-Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and contemporary scientific understandings of the mind and emotions. In the year 2004, Dr. Lobsang Tenzin Negi, the founding director of the Emory Compassion Center, developed a compassion training program to address the rising mental distress among Emory students and to guide them towards a compassionate use of their higher education.
As for the cognitively based compassion training, this has again the guidance and vision of His Holiness. In 1998, when His Holiness delivered the commencement speech, he emphasized that education is a tool. How we use that depends on the user. If the person comes with a warm-heartedness, a compassionate place, and his or her education they will use for the constructive purpose. Otherwise, one can use it for destructive purpose as well. And that really resonated with Emory community. Not only Emory, actually through media, it went viral in the United States. We started with several programs. It's Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist psychology and Tibetan language and like that. But in 2003, when we were offering classes in Tibetan Buddhism, particularly that focused on mind training. One of the students who was leading an initiative for destigmatizing mental health on campus really felt that a program can be developed grounded in the Tibetan tradition to help the Emory community with the mental health, because we had a number of students commit suicide. Many students were struggling with depression and other forms of mental health, but there was a lot of stigma, and then so people were not seeking help. But she felt, that Molly Harrington, this student, that some of the elements of the course that we were offering based on Tibetan Buddhist psychology would be very helpful. So that led to the development of cognitively based compassion training. We offered that to undergrad students, freshman college student, and as a research project to see if that helped buffer some of these mental health issues by measuring some of the markers of depression. And the study found a great help that in the students who went to the class and practiced compassion, they had much lower reaction, or the lower levels of stress hormones and the inflammation. Those were important findings for buffering the mental health problems. So since then, this program has grown. Now it is taught in 20-some countries and in 9 languages, and it's growing. Actually, we're at the cusp of making it global. In the fall, we are launching what's called the Compassion Shift. So that's the cognitively based compassion training.
Today, cognitively based compassion training is one of the most researched compassion training programs, and more than 24 peer-reviewed published research studies have suggested that the CBCT can improve multiple measures of mental health. I'm glad to have with us today Tim Harrison, the Associate Director of the Emory Compassion Center's Cognitively Based Compassion Training Program, for this conversation. Tim has been with the program from the very early years of the program and has been instrumental for the growth of the program. Hello, Tim. Welcome to Tibettv's program.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here.
So, Tim, tell us about the inception of the program at Emory. In what ways did the message and work of His Holiness the Dalai Lama inspire the founding of the program there?
So, thank you for that question. We are so lucky here at Emory University to that Geshe Lobsang Tenzin Negi has come here and become a professor of in religion and founded the Compassion Center at this university. He has been such a gift to the students who've taken his classes for over 25 years now. And it was in one of those classes that one of the students who was learning in an academic way, learning about these ancient Tibetan Buddhist, Indo-Tibetan Buddhist practices and ideas. She was learning about how these practices change the mind, change the heart. And at that time, the Emory University students were having struggles with mental health, very acute struggles, a number of students. And apparently there were some attempts at self-harm with the students on the campus at that time. And she had this idea that some of these ancient practices could benefit students today. And she asked Dr. Negi, Geshe Lobsang, if he would please consider developing a program for students that would benefit them based on these ancient practices. And he says that at first, he wasn't sure she was very serious about it because such a new idea, but she kept asking him over the months of the course. And finally he said, okay, let's try that. So he has worked tirelessly to, with all of his knowledge from the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, but also his doctorate in emotion science here in the United States, taking the knowledge of the sort of modern Western understanding of emotions and psychology, putting that together with the ancient deep wisdom and knowledge about contemplative practice and the mind, and developing a program that's very accessible to people in this current society and environment, at least here in the United States. That was the initial impetus. And the program takes 8 stages of practice, focusing on different things with each different contemplative practice. And it's called cognitively based compassion training because the focus is on how do we cultivate our compassion. In the United States, sometimes people think that we mean that people don't have compassion. And so we need to teach them to have compassion. So the first thing we have to explain is, no, everyone has compassion, like His Holiness says, and so wise. It's part of every human experience. The problem is not, do we have compassion? The problem is, do we include enough other people in our compassion? So the program is really beautifully crafted, and immediately Emory University began to research the program. So the outcomes have been very promising. And, we have been inspired all along at the Compassion Center, of course, by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and his call for what he's called recently a compassion revolution. In his books, Ethics for a New Millennium, and then again in Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World, he lays out a very secular approach. It's not tied to any one religion or another, but a secular approach to cultivating these basic human values. And I think that he has inspired people all over the world to turn to understanding what these basic human values are. In our program, we are just so lucky here to be a program that is specifically aimed at helping people cultivate these basic values. So that's how it got started. And now we are in 15 different countries. It's translated into 8 or 9 languages. And we have plans for more expansion. It seems the whole world is interested in a way to cultivate compassion based on these ancient practices.
Absolutely. How does the program strengthen the capacity of human heart through deliberate practice? You talked about 8 stages of the program.
Well, the end of the program, of course, is compassion, inclusive compassion. The 8th stage is reaching out and seeing that we can include others beyond our immediate circle of concern, that we can expand our circle of concern. So the stages before that, stages 6 and 7, both rely on what His Holiness refers to as the 2 pillars of secular ethics, seeing our common humanity and seeing our interdependence. So these basic realities of all of our situation, that no matter who we are, what religion, what nationality, we share so much in common with every other person, as His Holiness says, all 8 billion people on this planet. When we see other people in this way, and then when we see our interdependence, how we depend on each other, and we can see that today, how actions in one country impact the actions of other countries and the experience and well-being of other countries. It's so evident in today's world. If we can really make visible the realities of our common humanity and our interdependence, compassion naturally flows, and it flows out to more and includes more and more others. But to be ready for that sort of commitment, that sort of urgency that we may feel when we realize how much we have in common, how much we're tied to all these other people, we need to prepare for that. So the first 5 stages of CBCT really focus on strengthening our own resilience in a variety of ways. The first ones are some very basic attention training, learning how our attention works, using the ancient metaphors of the elephant that is being trained by a kind, gentle trainer, and the metaphors of understanding the mind as like the ocean with the waves on top that are like the sometimes turbulent emotions, but deep down there's a stillness, a calmness. So those early practices are introduced, and with that sense of calm, alertness, self-awareness, then we can turn to what in the West we seem to really need very much, which is self-compassion. How do we understand our own suffering in a way that doesn't add on top of that suffering? Because sometimes it seems, especially in contemporary cultures, we can, maybe it's because of all the media we consume, but we may think that there is such a thing as a perfect life or a perfect person, that somehow I could, if I work hard enough, I could somehow avoid all suffering. I could avoid all struggles and challenges. But we know this is not true. But young people don't know that. And therefore, when they meet challenges, when they meet struggles, they might layer on top of that, those struggles, this sense of shame or blaming themselves that can be very crippling, very difficult. And there's a lot of evidence that this lack of self-compassion is what leads to many of the mental health problems that young people and all of us struggle with today: anxiety, depression, burnout, PTSD. So that's post-traumatic stress disorder. So CBCT puts self-compassion right in the middle. The more, it turns out, the more we learn to love ourselves, forgive ourselves for our imperfections, the more we have the strength to face them and overcome them, and then turn outward and embrace others and see their suffering and extend compassion to others. That's a very quick summary of the 8 modules, in a short period.
Yes, Tim. Absolutely. It's a very broad topic, and then it's also a very deep topic as well. And like you were talking about how it emotionally helps people build a strong emotion, and at the same time to be, having this sense of self-compassion and then compassion towards others as well. And that's what I was going to ask you, in what ways and how do you see this program helping people globally, particularly the mental health at this time of age where we are facing so much of problems, mostly and majority of this, originating from unhealthy mental health.
Yeah. So CBCT has been shown in numerous scientific studies to have some impacts on people's mental health. We could talk about why that is, but let me just first say that the initial studies of CBCT showed that people's biomarkers, in other words, chemicals in their blood of stress, like cortisol, interleukin-6, which is an inflammatory marker, can be decreased after a higher practice time with CBCT, even in the face of immediate stressful situations. So they would put people in a slightly stressful situation, measure the impact in their blood, and show that people who practice these very simple meditative practices are more able to recover quickly from a stressful event, and even carry with them, maybe it seems like there's a suggestion in the literature that they carry with them a lower level of inflammatory markers and therefore inflammation. Inflammation is one of the major causes of many of the diseases that are difficult for human beings today: diabetes, cancer, dementia, but also it's associated with depression, anxiety, mental health struggles. So let's see, I could talk about, CBCT has been used in many different populations. That's with those initial studies were with students. There was a study with veterans from the military who had many years, decades ago, gone through military trauma, who experienced PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And even after decades of therapy and intensive therapy, they had not recovered fully. So they offered them this CBCT course, especially tailored for the veterans, to help them really face the reality of their inner mental experience. What is it about our mind that's replaying some of these early childhood or young youthful experiences that were so distressing, and relating to those experiences in ways that are continue to be damaging or harmful to us today? And these veterans had a very positive impact, decreasing their PTSD symptoms after just 8 weeks of this. 10 weeks. This program was 10 weeks of this 2 hours per week session, including some recordings to allow them to do little meditations all along for this 10-week period. And it seems that these veterans, when you talk to them, they say things like, well, for the first time, I'm beginning to see that these patterns in my mind, they're not the same thing as me. I can relate to them as an observer. I don't need to identify with them. And sometimes I think because I have these patterns, it makes me a bad person. It means there's something inherently wrong with me. But now with CBCT, I can bring a sense of love and acceptance to myself and realize that I'm just like everyone else. I have these patterns. I have these vulnerabilities, just like everyone else. And there's a lightening, that the difficult patterns are not so heavy anymore, and therefore they're not as constraining. And then when they realize the joy of feeling this compassion for others, which they've always felt, but somehow almost as if they don't deserve to be in a positive relationship with others, now they realize they do deserve that, just like everyone else. And they can take on their role as a caregiver, as a father, as a friend, and realized there's so many benefits from that. So there's a new concept in research called post-traumatic growth that is possible even when we experience traumatic experiences. And I think in some ways His Holiness speaks about this very eloquently of his own experience. Of course, this was traumatic to lose his country, to be driven out, to have to flee. And yet he himself speaks of how he has turned that experience into something positive, something that has opened up opportunities to share his wisdom and the wisdom of the Tibetan culture with the rest of the world at a time where the world really, really needs that. So I see parallels there. I hope I'm not overstating the situation with His Holiness. I don't want to put words in his mouth. But anyway, we see such benefits with the people practicing CBCT.
Yes. The CBCT programs have reached thousands of people and in many different countries. You already have so many trained teachers in approximately more than 27 countries. So tell us about the future plans and the scaling activities of the program. What kind of future do you see for this program?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. We have such an exciting year here for a year of compassion. We are going to have a big launch event in September. And we have been working very hard for about 3 years now on something we call Compassion U. It's an app that you access through the internet, and it will allow you to experience CBCT much more easily. In the past, before the pandemic, we only taught CBCT in person. And we have a rigorous teacher training program. It takes about 6 months to become a certified CBCT instructor. And although it was going very well, the expansion was very slow. It just went from person to person like that. So we are so fortunate to have attracted some generous funding to allow us to expand the program through Compassion U. And again, we'll launch this app, or this digital learning platform is the more official name, this year. And what this program will allow is for people all over the world to access CBCT from their own home, from their country. At first, it will be in just a few languages, English, Spanish, some others. I'm not sure we've determined exactly, but eventually it will be in so many different languages and available to so many others. And on top of that, we've been able to tailor CBCT to really support people in the key sectors in society. When Dr. Negi speaks of CBCT, he speaks of systems thinking, how important it is for us not to just bring our compassion to our immediate circle, but to understand that our compassion can extend to people all throughout society at a systemic level. So with that in mind, we've identified 4 systems that we're wanting to make CBCT available within. One is the system of education. Every country has an education system. So we'll have a program for CBCT just for educators who are working in those systems. We have a system of healthcare. Healthcare is such a human system and an important human system for the entire world. So we have a program, CBCT, for healthcare providers that will help doctors, nurses, people working with patients of any sort cultivate compassion for themselves and hopefully help to stave off burnout and exhaustion. The third one is business and leadership. Business is such an important part of the world now, so many people involved in it. So we have CBCT for business and leadership. And finally, CBCT for mental health. So people working with patients and clients. This is for mental health professionals to bring CBCT into their treatment of their clients. So it's an exciting year for us. We see many ways that CBCT is going to keep growing. And with the blessings of His Holiness and the inspiration that we get from putting his words and his ideas and his encouragement into practice, we hope that we will be able to offer CBCT for many, many years to come across the world.
So that's a very exciting year coming up, and a lot of new launches as well for the cognitively based compassion training program, and we're very excited about it, and we wish you good luck and all the best. And Tim, thank you so much for being with us and for talking to us about the Emory's cognitively based compassion training program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Cognitively Based Compassion Training Program is one of the 3 programs at Emory that are at the intersection of science and spirituality. These programs are supported by robust research components as the Emory Compassion Center works to advance a global culture of compassion under Emory-Tibet Partnership, a collaboration with His Holiness the Dalai Lama that dates back to the year 1998. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. See you in the next episode of Compassion Revolution series.